The sky above the desert town was cloudy and gray. Wind carried dust through the empty streets as people hurried into shops and diners. On the edge of town, a small transport station buzzed softly. A single hover bus stopped and opened its doors. A young woman stepped off, wearing a long white gown now dirty with travel. Her face was tired, eyes wide with fear and hope. She clutched a small bag against her chest. The train left behind her, and she was alone. Her name was Liana. Hours ago, she had been standing before a crowd in a large hall. People from two wealthy families watched as she was about to marry a man she didn't love. He was cold, sharp, and saw her more as a prize than a person. Her heart pounded when the priest asked if she agreed. And in that moment, she ran Liana. Didn't have a plan. She had never left her home city before, but she knew she couldn't live her life under someone else's control. So she fled through the back, grabbed a random ticket, and got on the first transport that took her far away. Now she was in a place she'd never heard of, with no friends, no credits, no idea what would happen next. She walked through the dusty streets. Some people stared, surprised to see a woman in a bridal dress. Others whispered. Liana kept walking. Her shoes were worn, her feet hurt, but she didn't stop. She just wanted to be somewhere safe. Meanwhile, not far away, a man sat at a small cafe. He wore simple clothes, jeans, dark jacket, and sunglasses. He looked like any other traveler, sipping his drink quietly and watching the town. But what no one knew was that he was Damon Hale, owner of Hale Industries, one of the richest tech companies on Earth. He had come to this quiet town to get away from the pressure. People always wanted something from him. Deals, favors, money. Here, no one knew who he was. He liked that. He liked the silence. He liked being nobody, but as he looked up from his cup, he saw the girl. She looked out of place. White dress, messy hair, tired face. She looked like she was lost. Something about her made Damon stand. He followed her at a distance, not wanting to scare her. He just had a feeling she might need help. Liana finally stopped near an old fountain in the center of town. She sat on the edge, breathing hard. She opened her bag and counted the few coins she had left. It wasn't even enough for food. Her stomach growled. She felt like crying, but she held it in. "You okay?" a voice asked. She looked up quickly. The man who spoke had a calm voice and kind eyes. He didn't look like a threat. He stood a few feet away, hands in his pockets, not trying to come too close. I don't know," she said. "I think I made a big mistake. Want to talk about it?" he asked. She hesitated, then nodded slowly. They sat together on the fountain's edge. She didn't tell him everything, just enough that she ran away from. A wedding that she had nowhere to go. That she just wanted to feel safe, just once in her life. "You were brave," Damon said after listening. "Sometimes the hardest thing is walking away from the wrong life." "Yeah, but now I don't have any life at all," Liana said, looking down. "No home, no job, no food." He thought for a moment. Then he stood. "Come on," he said. "Let's get you something to eat." "I can't pay you," she said quickly. "Ask for money," Damon replied. She followed him. They went to a small diner nearby. The smell of warm food made her stomach growl louder. He ordered for both of them. When the food came, she ate quickly, like she hadn't eaten in days. Damon watched her with quiet eyes, letting her finish. Afterward, they sat outside again. "So," she asked finally, "what's your name?" "Damon," he said simply. "You from here?" "No, just passing through." "You seem different," she said. "I get that a lot." For a few minutes, they just sat in silence. Then Liana looked at him and asked, "Why are you helping me?" He smiled a little. "Because you looked like you needed someone who didn't want anything from you." She blinked. No one had ever said that to her before. As the sun started to set, Damon stood again. "I have a cabin just outside town," he said. "It's clean, safe, and empty. You can stay the night if you want." She stared at him, unsure. "You don't have to," he added quickly. "I'll give you some credits either way. Just ... Might like a place to rest?" She looked at his face. Something about it told her he was telling the truth. Double quotes. ... Okay. She said softly. They walked together into the quiet evening. Neither of them knew that this meeting would change everything. Neither of them knew the secrets the other was holding. But for now, was enough that two strangers had met, and both were no longer alone. The road outside town was quiet as Damon and Liana walked toward the cabin. The sky had turned orange with the setting sun, and a few stars were beginning to appear. The air was cool, and Liana pulled the old shawl from her bag around her shoulders. Damon noticed but didn't say anything, just walked beside her, keeping a calm pace. "It's not far," he said. "Just around that hill? You live out here alone?" Liana asked. "Sometimes," Damon replied. "I come here when I need to think." "Think about what?" He glanced at her. "About what matters, about who I want to be." Liana didn't press more. She was already surprised at how peaceful he seemed. Most people she knew, especially rich ones, were always talking fast, moving fast, always wanting something. Yet this man, he was still like the silence around them. Soon they reached a small cabin hidden among trees. It was simple, but well built. Wooden walls, large windows, and a solar panel on the roof. Liana noticed how clean and quiet everything was. A small garden sat to the side, and lights inside the house flickered on automatically as they walked. In. Damon opened the door and let her step in first. The inside was warm and smelled of wood and herbs. A soft couch, bookshelves, a little kitchen, and a fireplace filled the space. There was no fancy tech, no robots, no screens. Just peace. "You can use the guest room," Damon said, pointing down the hallway. "There's a bed, fresh clothes. And a bathroom? Feel free to rest." "Thank you," Liana said quietly. "Really, you didn't have to do this." He gave a small smile. "Sometimes helping someone is the only thing that feels right." She walked to the room and slowly closed the door behind her. In the mirror, Liana stared at her reflection. The wedding dress was wrinkled and stained. Her face was tired. She opened the closet and found simple clothes, soft pants, and a warm shirt. She changed, washed her face, and let herself sit on the bed. For the first time in days, she felt safe. Meanwhile, Damon sat near the fireplace, staring at the flames. He thought about her story, a woman who ran from her wedding because she didn't want to be owned. He respected that. It reminded him of the time he walked away from his family's business long before he became a CEO. He had built his company in secret, away from the spotlight, away from the people who thought they could control him. He lived quietly, never showing his face to the public. A knock pulled him from his thoughts. Liana stood in the hallway. Her hair now brushed back, face clean, eyes still uncertain. "Can I sit with you?" she asked. "Of course," Damon said. She sat on the floor beside him, close to the fire. The warm glow danced across her face. She held a cup of tea he had made earlier. "I haven't felt this quiet in years," she said. "My house was always full of people, staff, noise, orders. Even when I was alone, I wasn't really alone." "I know the feeling," Damon replied. "But you're different. You chose this quiet." "Yeah, I used to be part of the noise too, but it never gave me peace." Liana looked at him. "You don't talk like most men I've met," he smiled. "And you don't talk like someone weak." They both laughed softly. It felt natural. After a while, she leaned back and looked up at the ceiling. "I don't even know what comes next for me," she said. "I can't go back. I don't want to. But I don't have a future either." "Then build one," Damon said simply. She turned to him, surprised by the ease in his voice. "How?" she asked. "Start small. A job, a place to live, something. That's yours." "You make it sound easy?" "It's not," he admitted. "But it's better than living a life someone else wrote for you." Liana thought about that for a long time. The fire crackled between them and neither spoke for several minutes. The silence wasn't heavy. It was comforting. "Can I stay for a few days?" she asked softly. "As long as you need," Damon said without hesitation. She smiled. "Thank you, Damon." "You're welcome, Liana." The next morning, sunlight spilled into the cabin. Liana woke early and stepped outside. Birds chirped in the trees. She took a deep breath. Something inside her felt different, lighter. Damon was already in the garden, working with a small spade. He looked up and waved. "Sleep well?" "Like a rock," she said, joining him. "Do you always do this? Gardening?" "Yeah." "Helps me think." She knelt beside him and helped pull weeds. The work was simple, but it made her feel grounded, like her hands were finally touching something real. Later, Damon handed her a small tablet. "I have a contact in the city," he said. "A woman who runs a shelter and a small school. She helps people get back on their feet. I think she'd like you." Liana's eyes lit up. "Really? Really?" She hesitated, then asked, "Why are you being so kind to me?" Damon looked at her, long and steady. "Maybe because you remind me of myself. Or maybe because I just want to see you free." Liana nodded. She didn't know who Damon really was yet, but in this quiet cabin, he felt like the one person who truly saw her. What neither of them knew was that back in the city, her family had noticed she was gone. They had started looking. Back in the city, the house of Liana's family was filled with noise. Her father paced the marble floor, shouting orders. "Ah!" Her mother sat on a velvet couch, silent but tense. The wedding had ended in shock. The guests had whispered. The groom's family had stormed out in anger. No one knew where Liana had gone. There were no notes, no clues. Her communication chip had been removed, her tracker shut off. Her father was furious, not just because she ran, but because it embarrassed him in front of powerful people. "Find her," he barked. "Search every station, every transport, every street." A group of hired agents nodded and rushed off. They were fast and quiet, trained to locate people. And once they started hunting, they rarely failed. But Liana didn't know that. At the peaceful cabin, she was beginning to feel alive again. The sun was warm as she and Damon walked through the woods nearby. They carried baskets, picking berries, and small fruits from the bushes. "I've never done this before," she said with a laugh. "What, walk through trees?" Damon teased. "No," she said, smiling. Just ... live like this. Free, simple. No guards, no rules, no eyes. Watching my every move. Do you miss it?" "Not one bit." They reached a small hilltop that looked over the town. The view was wide and clear. Liana sat down on a rock and stared at the sky. Damon sat beside her. "What about you?" she asked. "Do you ever miss the noise?" "Sometimes," he said. "But only the parts where I felt useful, not the parts where people only wanted me for my name." She looked at him carefully. "You still haven't told me much about who you are." He didn't answer right away. "Maybe I will," Damon said. "When the time is right." At evening, they returned to the cabin with full baskets. Damon made a small meal, and they ate by candlelight. Liana talked about her childhood, how she used to sneak out to look at the stars, how she always dreamed of being a teacher. Damon listened closely, asking questions gently, never interrupting. After dinner, Liana helped wash the dishes. Her hands were soft from the warm water, and her heart was lighter. She felt like she had found a small world that was finally hers, but miles away. The agents had already traced her last ticket. They found a camera that showed her stepping off the transport in the desert town. They shared the image with her father. He pointed to the screen. "Go there now." The agents moved quickly, getting into a dark hovercraft and setting course for the town. Back at the cabin, Damon sat near the fire, writing something on a paper. Liana walked in quietly and asked, "What are you doing?" "Just writing ideas." He said, "Business ideas?" He looked up. "Sort of. Can I see?" He smiled and handed her the paper. It had a sketch of a learning center, a place with books, small rooms for teaching, and a garden. "This is beautiful," she whispered. "You said you wanted to teach," Damon said. "This is what I imagined for you." She stared at him. No one had ever done something like this for her. No one had ever listened to her dreams and turned them into something real. ... Damon ... She said softly. "You're not just a stranger, are you?" He didn't speak for a moment. "I run a company," he finally said. "A big one. But I keep it quiet. I don't like crowds or attention." She blinked. "You're rich." Yes. And you live here alone? Money doesn't buy peace, he said. I come here when I need to remember what matters. She sat beside him, her mind spinning. But she wasn't angry. She wasn't scared. In fact, she felt more respect for him now than before. Thank you for trusting me, she said. Thank you for reminding me why I built what I did, he replied. They shared a quiet smile, one that needed no words. But outside, in the shadows of the trees, someone watched. One of the agents had found the cabin. He stepped back, raised his communicator, and whispered, "Found her." Next morning, Damon and Liana woke early. They planned to visit the town and meet the woman who ran the shelter and school. Damon had called ahead and arranged everything. Liana wore simple clothes, clean, light, and free from anything her old life forced her to wear. She looked in the mirror and saw not a runaway bride, but a woman starting over. They stepped outside just as a black hovercraft appeared in the distance, moving, fast and silent. Damon noticed it first. "Get back inside," he said quickly. "What's going on?" Liana asked. But Damon had already tapped his hidden wrist chip. A signal went out from his device, alerting a private drone nearby. The drone lifted off and circled above. The hovercraft stopped near the cabin. Men in black stepped out. Liana gasped. "They're my father's people. Stay behind me," Damon said, his voice calm but sharp. The agent stepped forward. "We're here for the girl," one said. "She's not going anywhere unless she chooses to," Damon replied. "We have orders." "I have legal rights," Damon said. "And so does she." One of the men tried to push forward. In a flash, the drone above sent a warning light. The agent stopped. "Who are you?" another asked, narrowing his eyes. Damon smiled, slow and cold. "My name is Damon Hale." The agents froze. They knew the name. Everyone did. Without a word, they stepped back and contacted her father. "We have a problem," one said. "She's with Damon Hale." The reply came after a pause. "Do not engage. Return." The hovercraft lifted off and vanished into the sky. Liana stood in shock. "They left. ... just like that?" Damon turned to her. "When people fear your power, they think twice." She stared at him, realizing just how much he had kept hidden, not because he was dishonest, but because he wanted to be seen as a person, not a name. She took his hand. "Thank you," she said. "You didn't have to protect me. But you did." He looked at her, gentle and honest. "And I will keep protecting you, for as long as you need." Liana sat on the porch of the cabin the next morning, looking at the sky as the sun slowly rose. The colors painted across the clouds were soft and peaceful. A small breeze touched her face, and for the first time, she felt calm in her heart. Inside the cabin, Damon was making breakfast. The smell of eggs and fresh bread drifted through the open window. He moved around the kitchen in quiet steps, as if he didn't want to break the peace. When Liana walked in, he smiled. "You're up early," he said. "Couldn't sleep," she replied. "Too many thoughts." He nodded. "About yesterday?" "Yeah. I still can't believe they found me." "But they didn't take you," Damon said gently. "You're safe, only because of you." "No," Damon said, placing a plate in front of her, "because you chose not to go back." They ate together, talking about small things. Liana spoke about books she loved, and Damon shared funny stories from his early business days. He had once been ignored in a meeting because no one knew he was the owner. He found it funny. Liana laughed with him, her voice light and bright. After breakfast, they walked to town. Damon introduced Liana to a woman named Claire, who ran a small school and a shelter for women who had escaped hard lives. Claire was kind, with gray hair tied in a bun and warm eyes full of strength. "So you want to teach?" Claire asked. "I do," Liana said, "but I've never really had the chance." Claire nodded. "Then you'll learn here and help others too." The school was small but full of life. Children read books, played with wooden blocks, and painted pictures on old paper. Liana watched them with wide eyes. One little girl handed her a crayon and smiled. "You can sit here," the girl said. Liana sat down and helped her draw a flower. "I think I'm going to like it here, Liana whispered later. You already belong, Claire told her. That evening, Damon and Liana returned to the cabin. She looked tired but happy. This place feels like a dream, she said. Sometimes dreams are just hidden parts of the real world, Damon answered. They sat near the fire again. Liana leaned her head on his shoulder without thinking. He didn't move away. The silence was warm, filled with trust, but far away back in the city. Someone else wasn't ready to let Liana go. Her former fiancé Gregor sat in a dark room looking at a photo of her. His pride had been broken. He had promised her family, wealth, and power. But she had run in front of everyone. Couldn't forget the whispers, the embarrassment, shame. His voice was cold as he spoke to the man in front of him. Find out who Damon Hale really is. Dig deep if he thinks. He can take her from me. He's wrong. Yes, sir, the man replied and left. Gregor leaned back, anger burning in his eyes. She'll come back, he muttered, one way or another. Meanwhile, at the cabin, Damon looked out the window. He had seen men like Gregor before. Men who believed they owned everything. Damon had never respected that kind of power. He respected strength, the quiet kind that lived in people like Liana. He walked outside and looked at the stars. His communicator buzzed. Yes, he said softly. Double quotes, sir. Someone is digging into your past. We traced it back to a man named Gregor. Damon's face stayed calm. Keep an eye on him, but don't act yet. Understood. When Damon walked back inside, Liana was sitting at the table, writing something in a small notebook. What are you writing? He asked. A lesson plan, she said, smiling. For tomorrow? He smiled. You're already becoming a teacher, thanks to you. We sat down across from her. If you ever want to leave, Damon said quietly, to go anywhere, start. A school of your own? I'll help you. I don't want to leave, she said. Not yet. He nodded. Her words meant more than she knew. The next few days passed peacefully. Liana helped at the school, learning quickly and gaining trust. From the children, Claire praised her. The townspeople started recognizing her as part of the community. Damon stayed close, helping behind the scenes, sending quiet support through his company's resources, but never showing off. But on the fifth night, something strange happened. A package arrived at the cabin. No sender, just a box left at the door. Damon opened it carefully. Inside was a single photo, Liana in her wedding dress. The one from the day she ran. Written on the back were 3 words. She is mine. Damon's face turned still. Liana walked in. What's that? He handed her the photo. Her hand shook when she saw it. It's him, she whispered. We'll handle this, Damon said firmly. He won't stop, Liana said. He wants to punish me, and I won't let him. She looked at him. Why do you care so much? Damon held her gaze. Because I believe in your right to be free. Because I care about you more than you know. Her heart beat faster, but not from fear this time. She saw truth in his eyes. Outside, night fell over the cabin. But inside, a storm was quietly rising. Damon knew Gregor had crossed a line. And now it wasn't just about protecting Liana. It was about ending the threat for good. The next morning, the sky was gray. Clouds moved slowly above the cabin, and the air felt heavier than usual. Liana stood at the window, looking out in silence. The photo was still on the table. Her old life had found her again, and now she didn't know how long this peace would last. Damon walked in with 2 cups of tea. He handed one to her. You didn't sleep much, he said. Neither did you. She replied. They sat together, the silence between them full of unspoken thoughts. I can't let you get hurt because of me, she said softly. You won't, Damon said. But if I don't do something now, he'll keep chasing you. This has to end. Liana looked at him. How? By showing him that you're not alone anymore, and that I'm not a man he can threaten. He stood, picked up the photo, and slid it into a drawer. Come with me, he said. They drove to the town that afternoon. Not to the school, but to a quiet office building on the edge of the valley. It was plain from the outside, but once inside, the air changed. The building was full of hidden tech, quiet security, and calm staff that nodded at Damon with respect. "What is this place?" Liana asked. "One of my personal command centers," Damon said. "I don't use it often, only when I need to. Handle things myself." They entered a private room. Screens lit up. One showed Gregor. Another showed the city. Files appeared. Names, numbers, deals. Liana was shocked. "You've been watching him?" "Only after I saw the photo," Damon replied. "I don't believe in revenge, but I believe in protection. Now I want to make sure Gregor never comes near you again." He tapped a few buttons. A call started. A woman's face appeared. On the screen, she looked strong, with sharp eyes. "Mira," Damon said, "I need your help." "Name it," she said. "I want everything on Gregor's business. All connections, all deals. Now, if there's anything illegal, we expose it. If not, we cut him off from every powerful hand he trusts." "Understood," Mira replied. "You'll have a report by tonight." The screen went dark. Liana stared at him. "You really going to destroy him?" "I'm not doing it for revenge," Damon said. "I'm doing it so you can live without fear, so you can breathe." She sat down slowly, still processing everything. "I don't want you to carry all this weight," she said. "I've carried heavier," Damon replied gently. "You are not a burden." Back at the cabin that night, Liana sat by the fire with her notebook. Damon was outside, talking with his team. The report had arrived, and it was worse than expected. Gregor had hidden deals, illegal trades, and secret blackmail documents. All carefully buried. All now in Damon's hands. When Damon came inside, he looked serious. "It's time." He said he uploaded everything to a private channel and sent it to the city council, the economic courts, and even some trusted media. The moment the files reached their targets, the storm began. Back in the city, Gregor's world started falling apart. His accounts were frozen. His business partners backed away. Officials knocked on his door with questions. Reporters waited outside his building. The same people who once praised him now turned cold. Gregor threw his glass at the wall and shouted, "Who did this?" His assistant whispered, "Damon Hale," went silent, pale. He now knew he had made a mistake, a big one. Back at the cabin, Damon received a message on his screen. "Target neutralized. Gregor is finished. The court has opened a case." He showed it to Liana. She stared at the words. Then slowly, tears filled her eyes. Not from fear, but from relief. "It's over." She asked. "Yes," Damon said. "He won't touch you again." She stood and wrapped her arms around him. He froze for a second, then gently returned the hug. "I don't know how to thank you," she whispered. "You don't have to," he said softly. They stood there in silence. The fire crackling beside them, the storm finally passing. The next day, Liana returned to the school with a smile. Claire welcomed her warmly. "You look different," Claire said. "I feel free," Liana replied. She helped the children read, painted with them, and even taught a short lesson on stars. Her eyes sparkled as she spoke. The kids listened with wide eyes and bright smiles. Damon watched from the door for a moment, unseen. He smiled quietly and walked away. He knew she was finally finding her place. That night, as they sat outside under the stars, Liana asked, "Why did you build all of this? The company, the cabins, the schools, the protection?" Damon looked up at the sky. "Because I once needed someone to protect me too. When I had nothing, I met someone who gave me a chance. I never forgot that feeling. Now I do the same for others." She touched his hand gently. "You did more than just help me. You showed me who I really am." "You were always strong," he said. "You just needed to see it." They sat in silence, side by side, as the stars watched over them somewhere. Deep inside, something new was growing between them, not built on fear, not on secrets, but on trust. And both of them knew that whatever came next, they wouldn't face it alone. Weeks passed. The sky was clearer now, and so was Liana's heart. The cabin felt more like a home, not just a place to hide. Every morning, she woke up early, helped at the school, spent her evenings in the quiet woods or beside the fire with Damon. The fear she once carried had faded. It had been replaced with something stronger purpose. The children at the school loved her. She taught them to read, to draw, and to imagine. Even Claire said, "You've become a light for this place, Liana." Liana smiled. "It's not just me. Someone gave me that light first." Meanwhile, Damon continued his work quietly. His company was running smoothly from behind the scenes. He had placed trusted people in charge, and now he was free to focus on something more important: life. One afternoon, Claire approached Damon while Liana was teaching. "She's different now," Claire said. "Stronger, freer." Damon nodded. "She always was. She just needed the space to grow." "Are you planning to keep this all temporary?" Claire asked, smiling gently. Damon looked at her, then back at Liana in the distance. She was laughing with the children, her eyes full of joy. "No," he said, "not anymore." That evening, Damon made a small dinner. Nothing fancy, just warm food and fresh herbs from the garden. Liana helped him carry plates to the table outside. Stars had begun to appear in the sky, and the wind was soft and sweet. They sat together, their hands sometimes brushing without meaning to. Each time, neither pulled away. After dinner, Damon stood and held out his hand. "Come with me, where?" Liana asked. "Just trust me." She took his hand, and they walked into the woods, following a path lit by small lights Damon had placed earlier. The trail led to a quiet open area with a small wooden bench and flowers planted all around. It was peaceful, full of color, and hidden from the world. Liana gasped. "This is beautiful." "I made it for you," Damon said. "A place just yours, safe, quiet, and full of life." She turned to him, eyes wide. "Why would you do this?" He looked at her carefully. "Because you changed everything for me." Liana felt her heart beat faster. "I came here to hide from the world," he continued. "But then you walked into my life and reminded me what it means to care again." She didn't speak. Her eyes were full of tears, the happy kind. "You're not someone who needs saving," Damon said. "You're someone who needed space to fly." Liana stepped closer. "And you gave me wings." They stood in silence, only the soft sound of the wind moving through the trees. Finally, Damon said, "I know your past hurt you. I know you're building something new. But if there's room for me in that future, I'd like to be there." Ouch. Smiled, full of warmth. "There's more than room," she whispered. "There's a place that belongs only to you." They held each other for a long time. There was no rush, no noise, no fear. Just two hearts that had found peace in each other. A few days later, Damon made another surprise. He brought Liana to the edge of the school grounds, where workers had already started laying the foundation for a new building. "What's this?" Liana asked. "Your school?" Damon replied. "Your own? You'll teach here, lead here, and help others like you." Liana blinked. "My own school? You once said you wanted to teach?" Damon smiled. Tears filled her eyes again, but this time they came with laughter too. "You really don't stop giving, do you?" "Do," she teased. "Not when it matters." News spread through the town. A new school was being built. People offered to help. Volunteers came. With tools and paint, even the children made drawings to hang on the walls. It became more than just a building. It became a symbol of new beginnings. When it finally opened, Liana stood in front of the door wearing a simple dress and holding a book in one hand. Beside her stood Damon, wearing a quiet smile. Claire hugged her tightly. "You did it." "We did," Liana said. The ribbon was cut, and children rushed inside. Laughter filled the halls, and for the first time, Liana felt like her dream had truly come alive. Months passed, and life settled into a beautiful rhythm. Liana ran her school, taught her students, and became a guide to others who had once felt lost like her. Damon continued his quiet work, building more centers, funding more dreams, and staying close to the woman who had changed his world. They didn't need big promises or loud words. They had something deeper: trust, peace, and quiet strength. One night under the same stars where everything had begun, Liana looked at Damon and said, "I never thought running away would bring me here." Damon smiled, Sometimes the road to freedom starts with one brave step. And sometimes, she said softly, it leads you right to the person you were always meant to find. They sat together, side by side, as the stars watched quietly from above, shining gently over a love that had grown not from riches or power, but from kindness, respect, and the courage to start again.